This video is going to talk about odd and even functions and their symmetry. So we have odd functions. It says f of negative x is equal to the opposite of f of x. So if I plug in a negative x, I should get an opposite y out. That's really what that means. So we look at this graph as g of x is equal to x cubed plus 1/2 x. And we can see that this graph has some symmetry. And if you look very closely, if we were to come in here and put a pencil on the origin and then spin our graph around this way, we would find out that we would get the exact same graph if I spun it around the origin. So we say that these odd functions are symmetrical about the origin. Now, if you look at this, you can see that on the graph we have the point 1 and 1.5 right there. And if it's true, what it says up here, if we have xy, we should have negative x, negative y, then I should also have negative 1, it won't fit in there, and negative 1.5. So if I go look for negative 1 and I look at my graph, there it is at negative 1.5. So we can see the symmetry there. And then finally, if we look at it algebraically, let's just pick a point and let's do g of 2. That's g of x. And we're going to do 2 cubed plus 1/2 times 2. And that'll give us 8, and plus 1/2 of 2 would be 1, so we get a positive 9. 2, 9 would be a point that would be on that graph. So let's do g of negative 2, and we should get out the opposite of what we just found. So we should find that we get negative 9. Let's see if we do. Negative 2 cubed is going to be negative 8 plus 1/2 times negative 2, which will be negative 1, and negative 1 plus negative 8 is negative 9. One last thing when we're thinking about it algebraically, look at the exponents. The exponents are all odd. That is another kind of clue that we might have an odd function. So now we're going to take a look at even functions. It says if I put in an opposite x, I should get the same y out. Even function if and only if the point xy on the graph also has the point negative x, y. So the only thing that changed here is the sign on the x. And if we look at this graph, if I were to take and put a dotted line right through here on the y-axis and put a mirror on that graph, I would see that every point over here, if I folded it on that line, would land right over here. Okay, and let's see what this graph says. It says if we contain the point 1, 0, then according to this up here, we should have negative 1, 0. And if we look at our graph, we have the point negative 1, 0. And again, if I had folded it on this y-axis, this point would have landed right on top of that one. So these are symmetrical about the y-axis. And then finally, algebraically, just like we did before, let's take a look at f of 2. So 2 to the 4th plus 2 times 2 squared minus 3. 2 to the 4th is 16. 2 squared is 4 times 2 would be plus 8 minus 3. 16 plus 8 is 24 minus 3 would be 21. And if we did f of negative 2, we have negative 2 to the 4th, but that is 16, plus 2 times negative 2 squared, but negative 2 squared is 4 times 2, so that gives us 8, minus 3. So again, 16 plus 8 minus 3 is going to give us the same 21. So we have the point 2, 21, and the opposite of 2, and the same 21. And finally, again, if we look at the equation or the function, we see that all the exponents the exponents are all even on the variable.